If you thought the biggest twist in Evita was the plot, think again. Rachel Zegler's backstage drama could be the real showstopper.
Even the Vegas bookies are betting on this meltdown. Looks like Evita's financial freefall just turned into the hottest gamble in town.
She's the definition of toxic. Everywhere she shows up, disaster is right behind her.
What if the actress who already set Broadway on fire with her alleged $100,000 a week salary suddenly claimed she was the real victim all along? That question smashed through theater Twitter at dawn when Rachel Zegler's public relations squad dropped what they branded an emergency statement, and the timing could not have been worse.
So is this a meltdown or marketing strategy? Either way, pass the popcorn, because when Rachel is involved, you know it's going to be the greatest show on earth.
After weeks of headlines about record losses, boardroom shouting matches, and a fan base foaming at the mouth, the idea that Rachel needed rescuing felt like watching someone pour gasoline on the last unburned scrap of stage curtain. Still, before anyone could decide whether to laugh, rage, or order popcorn, the statement itself leaked, and the fallout gave even the most battle-hardened Broadway veterans pause.
Guess my $5 coffee addiction wasn't the financial meltdown Broadway was worried about? Try $100,000 a week for singing in the shower.
Was this a desperate bid to protect her next big paycheck, or the spark that would finally blow the doors off everything left standing? The backlash that made her team panic had been brewing since the paycheck story broke. Men on Reddit compared her weekly haul to entire locker room payrolls in minor league hockey. One blogger joked that her Evita contract could fund an indie action film starring 3 washed-up wrestlers and still leave tip money for beer.
A lot of what you see with Zegler is really just a pretty common Gen Z mentality and approach to work. She believes that she should be able to express herself and speak her truth or whatever nonsense, regardless of the consequences to everybody else. In reality, you have a job. You're getting paid to do this job. You signed on the dotted line. You took on the role. And that job comes with certain basic responsibilities. And one of the most basic is the responsibility to control yourself and comport yourself a certain way publicly so that you don't harm the project, thereby harm all the hundreds of other people who are working on it.
Twitter, never shy with the pitchforks, kept cycling hashtags like Refund Evita Now and Paygate, and each cycle brought new memes of fans waving empty wallets in a sea of empty theater seats. Even normally civil LinkedIn threads, home turf for your average suit and tie subscriber, devolved into debates about whether any performer, superstar, or not deserved that kind of cash while the orchestra worried about grocery bills. It was the kind of noise no brand team can mute forever, and the sheer decibel level finally drove Rachel's handlers to crack open the crisis management playbook. The statement landed with the subtlety of a cymbal crash in a quiet church, like an amateur drummer given center stage during a funeral. It claimed Rachel was unfairly targeted, deeply hurt, and committed to fostering positivity.
Anyways, I've been getting a lot of hate comments lately, which is really hilarious, but they're all from the same girl, and it's actually hilarious. Like, her comments tell me that I'm not fit to play princesses. Then why have I played 2? I have another callback for the West Side movie in early June. I'll let you guys know how that goes. And otherwise, I'm just ballin'. I'm just living my best life.
Yet it read less like an apology and more like a self-penned tribute, dripping with carefully crafted PR spin. Instead of even a single note of humility, it seemed designed to shout from the rooftops, "Respect me." A good apology normally wears humility like a well-tailored suit, disarming critics with honesty, and maybe even a touch of vulnerability. But this document strutted in wearing a neon sign that screamed entitlement, its words practically echoing through the halls of every half-empty theater.
The Rachel Zegler effect has begun. According to scooper Daniel RPK, Rachel Zegler has been recast in Paddington 3 due to strikes, but I have a sneaking suspicion the strikes are only a cop-out for the fact that she has had so much negative press. She is certainly one of the key reasons why the Snow White movie is absolutely doomed. She's probably one of the key reasons why the next Hunger Games movie is gonna totally flop. And now the folks that are making the third Paddington movie are probably just using the strikes as an excuse to make sure that she's recast. Because I think if they outwardly said, well, we recast her because she just ruins everything she touches, that might not be a good look from the studio.
Fans, especially the 70+% of male viewers who have little patience for corporate fluff, caught the scent of spin instantly. They flooded comment sections with side-eye emojis and sarcastic hashtags, reminding anyone who'd listen that respect, like box office revenue, is earned, not decreed. A few even posted posted side-by-side memes comparing Rachel's so-called apology to an Oscar acceptance speech, one where the music starts playing, but she refuses to leave the stage. Still, the real eyebrow raiser hid in the final sentence: any further defamation will be met with decisive legal action. That line hit harder than a surprise stage slap, like a stiletto heel in a bar fight, leaving even die-hard fans wondering if they'd stumbled into a backstage mafia movie. Why threaten the very people still buying tickets? Unless there's an iceberg no one else can see? Some fans argued it was a power move, a sign she was ready to crush anyone who dared to ask questions. Others said it reeked of desperation, like a final Hail Mary to protect a reputation already on life support.
I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have. I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
Right. Every time that a celebrity gets like one DM that says KYS, they're like, I'm getting death threats! Someone save me, but not a prince! Don't
anybody but a prince.
Don't you dare save me.
She's like, I'm getting these death threats, and the cops were like, well, save yourself. Like,
yeah, you're a girl boss, aren't you?
I saw that interview. Save yourself. You'll be fine.
Word traveled fast that Evita's already fragile budget had moved from tight to tourniquet, a term usually reserved for paramedics treating open wounds. Now apparently Broadway slang for call the accountants before the blood hits the stage. Insiders whispered that after Rachel's rumored bonuses, weekly social media payouts, a slice of merchandise sales that would make even pop stars envious, and that notorious morale clause that paid her extra every time the internet stopped. Screaming for her head, the show's ledger looked like a horror movie jump scare. Producers, many of them seasoned veterans with graying temples and the 1,000-yard stare of survivors who'd lived through other expensive fiascos, suddenly found themselves staring down board members wielding spreadsheets bleeding red ink.
We forget while everyone was enjoying the film, the actors were being paid residuals. Like, they were literally being paid barely anything for their work, and we wonder why Rachel Zegler is speaking out against this. Like, I don't know, maybe it makes perfect sense because that was her first experience with the film industry, and like, yeah, she was kind of screwed. Like, yeah. And listen, she turned out fine. Like, she's making a lot more money than I am. But, you know, I would be pissed too.
One accountant allegedly called the situation the biggest backstage bar fight since Cats, which might be Broadway's polite way of saying, start packing. Investors, meanwhile, wanted answers, and they wanted them yesterday. Rumor had it some of them were already on speed dial with their lawyers, preparing for the kind of fight that turns boardrooms into war zones. The emergency statement, some suspected, was less about soothing Rachel's fragile feelings and more about calming the folks who signed the checks, the ones who'd believed Evita would be a safe bet. Not a six-figure fiasco, but what if the investors had already started dialing their lawyers and sharpening their knives? And what if Rachel's team was ready to fight back, contract in hand, with a smile that said, bring it on?
It's all Rachel Zegler and her behavior. And if it was just one comment, it probably would have been forgotten by now. But it was comment after comment, and it was pissing off everybody, pissing off all of America. And it became such a disaster that they had to shut her up, which was the smartest move they made. But the onus is all on her.
Sure, it feels like every aspect of this just seems to breed controversy, and yet that's just another aspect of it. By all accounts, they do not get on particularly well.
Whispers about courtroom showdowns spread like stage gossip at intermission, the kind that drifts from one side of the theater to the other, leaving a trail of gasps and nervous laughter in its wake. One rumor claimed producers were drafting breach of contract claims to claw back some of that colossal salary Rachel had allegedly negotiated, like poker players finally calling a bluff that had gone on too long. Another claimed Rachel's agents had prepared a counterstrike of their own. If a single confidential figure leaked to the press, they'd file lawsuits for defamation, lost earnings, and emotional distress that would tie Broadway's legal teams in knots for months. Picture two heavyweight fighters circling the ring, gloves up, accountants in their corners stuffing ice packs into balanced sheets, each one convinced they had the winning hand. For the average male viewer following the money trail, this kind of legal brinkmanship made for better entertainment than most reality shows.
I am just thoroughly convinced that Rachel Zegler is the unluckiest lucky person that has ever existed. Like, we just need to take a look through of her entire career, and like, you'll understand once you see. Okay, so first, imagine you have the voice of an angel. Like, she has one of the best singing voices that I've ever heard. At 16, she starts auditioning for the part of Maria in West Side Story. But mind you, this isn't any West Side Story remake. This is a Spielberg West Side Story remake. And at 17, you get the part, right? Your first ever acting job is playing the lead in a Spielberg movie. Insane. But then your co-star has all of these allegations come out, so they ramp down all of the PR for this movie. Then your co-star for one of your next movies is also a terrible person. Okay, maybe third time's a charm. You get cast to play the Snow White. But never mind, your co-star is a Zionist. Literally pray for her.
It was the kind of drama where every lawyer letter felt like a pay-per-view event. And yet, beneath the chaos, the big question lingered like the smell of burnt popcorn. Who blinks first when both sides believe they're holding the trump card? Could producers risk alienating the star who had once packed seats, assuming there were even any left to fill? Or would Rachel's team actually risk nuking what remained of her Broadway future just to prove a point? Fans did not wait for a judge's gavel to weigh in. Reddit threads lit up like a Christmas tree, tallying the show's rumored weekly losses with all the passion of sports analysts recapping Sunday scores. Discord servers filled with screenshots comparing Rachel's alleged take-home pay to star quarterbacks, UFC champions, and even celebrity chefs. One creative fan even ran the numbers on how many Mustang GTs you could buy with 1 month of her salary. Answer: roughly a fleet, fully loaded, with enough left over for insurance. Mid-video quick check. Gents, do you think any star is worth that kind of cash, or is Broadway simply off its rocker? Drop your verdict below. We read every spicy take. Meanwhile, back on Twitter, petitions circulated demanding she return part of the money for the good of the cast. As if one refund could fix the meltdown that had already spread like a virus. Some fans advocated boycotting any future project, until she paid it forward, calling her the poster child for celebrity greed. Others just wanted to watch the whole thing burn from a safe distance, popcorn in hand, cheering for the next meltdown. Yet, the noise kept amplifying, each tweet bouncing back louder and more savage than the last, until it felt like the entire internet was a single roaring crowd demanding the final curtain. Behind the scenes, a different drama brewed, one that had nothing to do with ticket sales or curtain calls, and everything to do with cold, hard cash. Industry insiders whispered that Rachel's team was scrambling to lock down a major streaming film, the kind that could spin her image from Broadway. Meltdown to box office redemption overnight. But the negative exposure she'd soaked up threatened to spook even the most fearless backers. According to one unconfirmed memo, passed around faster than a gossip sheet in a high school locker room, executives had started asking the kind of uncomfortable questions that keep agents awake at night. If audiences now associate her with runaway budgets, meltdown hashtags, and a social media firestorm that refuses to die down, will they still click play on a 2-hour film? Or will they scroll right past, already exhausted by the endless controversy? Meanwhile, Rachel's digital following, the currency of modern celebrity, showed signs of fatigue that no agent wants to see. Engagement dips, unfollow spikes, and a steady flow of snarky comment ratios that could drive even the most seasoned PR veteran to reach for a stress ball. In an age where followers equal potential ticket buyers, or at least the illusion of a built-in audience, those numbers can send financiers running faster than a stagehand spotting a falling prop. The emergency statement, some suspected, wasn't just about silencing critics. It was a last-ditch attempt to stem the bleeding long enough for the next deal to close. Because in this business, the difference between a comeback and a cautionary tale often boils down to whether the check's clear before the show's next payroll run. And what if that lifeline needed to land before the last standing investor turned off the lights? Broadway rumor mills now chewed on talk of blacklists like a dog with a fresh bone. One casting director allegedly muttered that producers might quietly move on from Rachel for the foreseeable future, the same way you pretend you didn't see the leak in the ceiling until the landlord comes around. Another claimed that theater owners, spooked by the headline risk, would rather book a safe revival than gamble on a lightning rod with a contract longer than a tax code. Of course, Broadway thrives on comebacks. One killer performance, one viral redemption video, and audiences forget even the most epic flameouts. But this fiasco felt different. The numbers were too big, the statement too tone-deaf, the anger too widespread. If Rachel could no longer guarantee ticket sales without also igniting a PR minefield, would any show dare roll the dice, especially with the entire internet waiting for the next meltdown? Some insiders argued the meltdown was, in fact, a calculated gambit. A classic play pulled straight from the modern PR playbook. Stir controversy, dominate the news cycle, then pivot sympathy her way. A formula as old as clickbait headlines and viral hashtags. It was the kind of strategy that could make even the most skeptical investor pause and wonder if Rachel's team was playing three-dimensional chess while everyone else was stuck in checkers. But the move misfired spectacularly when the crowd smelled canned theatrics instead of raw vulnerability. Every social media post, every carefully worded press release started to look like a corporate press kit rather than a genuine moment of crisis management. Instead of connecting with fans, Rachel's camp only poured more fuel on the fire. Worse, each new attempt to steer the narrative only reopened the wounds from that initial paycheck leak, the $100,000 a week bombshell that started it all. Fans who had initially been outraged now felt downright insulted, as if the show's star had decided they were too stupid to remember why they were angry in the first place. Audiences were on high alert, dissecting every word of every statement like amateur detectives, searching for any sign of authenticity or any hint of another hidden bonus clause. Meanwhile, the theatrics off stage overshadowed the art on stage, transforming what should have been a night of theater into a never-ending episode of reality TV. If there's one thing our mostly male viewership respects, it's transparency. Own the hustle, or at least throw in enough swagger to make it entertaining. Instead, they got corporate word salad served with a side of threat, and the appetite for forgiveness shrank by the hour. By the time the dust settled, if you can even call a swirling media storm settled, one thought echoed through the cheap seats and the orchestra pit alike. Had Rachel's team embraced the meltdown as unavoidable collateral damage, or was this truly an unforced error spiraling out of control? More documents could leak tomorrow, swinging the narrative yet again. Another insider might slip a behind-the-scenes audio recording into the inbox of a thirsty tabloid, or an emboldened cast member might drop a podcast bombshell about demands for extra satin in costume fittings. Every player, from investors to understudies, now weighs the benefits of staying silent against the instant rush of attention that comes with a viral revelation. And if there's one lesson from this saga so far, it's that silence rarely wins clicks. And every click fuels the next twist in the story. Rachel's alleged paycheck, the emergency statement, and the financial freefall have fused into a case study that even Broadway historians will chew on for years. Was she a savvy negotiator pushing an outdated industry to pay what star power is truly worth? Or did her oversized contract become the stone that finally cracked Evita's foundation? The PR meltdown meant to douse the fire only fed the flames, turning a backstage money dispute into a primetime soap opera. Whether Rachel bounces back with a smash hit film or watches producers quietly close doors remains to be seen. One thing, though, is certain. This drama's final curtain has not dropped. So buckle up, because the next twist is probably already rehearsing in the wings. Do you think Rachel's statement was a fair defense, or just another layer of spin on a runaway scandal? Tell us in the comments below, and let the debate rage on while we dig up the next revelation waiting in the dark.